Wow, how incredible seeing that on that massive screen with that incredible sound. Great. I'd love to invite Brett Morgan back to the stage to have a chat about the film. Yeah, but we'll start off anyway. Brett, you've made this incredible kind of impressionistic collage of Bowie. Not even so much of going through the materials.
I think I wanted to do when I came up with the idea before I knew I wanted to come up with an idea in 2015 after I did Montage and Pack to create something called the IMAX Music Experience, and the idea of that was that these artists like the Beatles and Bowie and artists that we love, and I wanted to create a space where we can sort of experience their music without the Wikipedia kind of facts, just kind of like Laserium. I used to love Pink Floyd Laserium when I was a kid, and so I kind of wanted to just create an experience that would be intimate and sublime. And we were going down the road with the Beatles, and Bowie passed, and I had met with him in 2007, and it just, I called up his executor a few weeks after he passed and told him what I was interested in doing, and he said, you know, David, most people don't know this, but David was a hoarder. He saved everything. And in fact, over the past 25 years, he's been sort of buying up stuff in auctions and sort of creating this sort of archive, but he didn't really have a plan of what was going to happen with stuff. And he said the one thing he said is he never wanted to participate in a sort of trad documentary. And so I come along with my pitch, and he said, you know, this is kind of perfect. It seems like a perfect opportunity. After that, on January 5th, 2017, I had a massive heart attack and flatlined, and was in a coma for a week. And the first words out of my mouth, my wife's here, she was there, to the surgeon was, I got to be on set on Monday. I'm directing a very important television show. And he's like, you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm directing a show for Marvel. I need to leave right now. I'd been in a coma, you know, and that's how out of control and imbalanced my life was. And then I began to ingest Bowie. I had no idea. I'd never listened to interviews with him. I loved his music or liked his music. I was a fan of his performances, but I had no idea that how his sort of philosophies on life. And when something happens as traumatic as having a heart attack, it obviously is a wake-up call. For me, I have 3 young children. My heart attack was the day after one of those birthdays, and I was like, what have I left for my children? What's the message of my life? My kids would give me Father's Day cards saying, thanks for showing me, what it means to have a great work ethic. You know, that's, and I was dead at 47. That's like not a great legacy. And I was like, what are they gonna, if something happens, what are they gonna remember by? And I realized that through David, I would have an opportunity to present them with a roadmap, a guide to how to lead a successful and fulfilling life in an age of chaos and fragmentation. And so that was a direct result, obviously, of the trauma that I experienced. And it's, things happen for a reason. And if I had made the film prior to that, it would not be this at all. I wouldn't have been as open and receptive to that messaging. So, it became what it is, which is something I think hopefully more, I think people hopefully came because of the music and will leave not necessarily knowing more about about David, but my hope is more about themselves. And that Bowie invites us to project. That's the whole idea. This isn't about, as I said at the beginning, it's not intended to be about David Jones. It's intended to reflect back to the viewer so we can sort of reflect on our own lives. Because, it's not that, usually you go to a movie and you walk out. I make films for a living. I walk out of films and I go, what'd you think of the film? This is good. What do you want to get for dinner? And that's fine. That's enough. That's what we do it for. And if someone was entertained, they could stay in their seat for 2 hours and 20 minutes, that's awesome. That's enough. But I found that a lot of people, this film stays with people for a couple days or what have you. And that's unbelievably gratifying and satisfying. And the idea that, so that's sort of how the film came into existence.
And it was really wonderful to see people almost like dancing out of the theatre before, like singing along to the credits, and it felt like a really joyful response.
I have to sit in the back row because I cannot sit still with this music. I would look stupid if I was sitting in the middle of the room, and people looked at me and I feel, but I love hearing this music in this room and in this space, and it's an awesome experience for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You must have trawled through, I can't even begin to imagine the hundreds of hours of
2 years
archival footage that you've got. Like, this just incredible footage on screen. How do you decide what makes the cut and what doesn't? And is there something in particular that you couldn't make fit in any way?
No, it was 2 years of screening 6 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days. That was possibly the best 2 years of my career. I didn't have to do anything other than watch and listen to David Bowie. I didn't have to write. I didn't have to edit. I got paid to go listen to Bowie and look at never before seen material. That was unbelievable. And until I had to sit down and write the film, and then it was a horror show. People often say, oh God, it must have been so hard to pick what's in the film. I don't want to sound weird, but it wasn't at all. I'm sorry, I don't have a great vocabulary, but when you're a crime scene and they put the dye down and it reveals the blood, it's kind of how I felt after screening the footage. The only footage that seemed to be appropriate was what's in this film. I had established a through line of action for me. This is just in the sort of subtext of the film, dealing with transience. And so once I established that was the through line, and that came from David, it didn't take a detective to figure out what his through line is. He says it in the film. My through line is chaos and fragmentation. He said it in 1971, and he says it's the most consistent. I mean, people would talk about David as changes, but if you sit and you listen to every known recording of him, it is entirely consistent. So much so that I will share my favorite discovery with you. There's a song, so the first 2 weeks of working on the film, I sit down and I listen to all the music in order of which it was written, with the lyric sheet on one hand and Nick Pegg's book. If you know what the book is, my cheat sheet for understanding the lyrics, right? Because it's been 3 weeks on one song. And the first day I came across a song that I wasn't that familiar with called Silly Boy Blue. And Silly Boy Blue is a song that David wrote, I think he was 18 or 19, and he was very interested in Buddhism. He was considering going and living in a monastery. And so he writes this song, Silly Boy Blue, that is about, in some respect, reincarnation. He's 18 years old. As I'm listening to the song, as it fades out, I hear something is familiar, but I can't place it. and I'm an awful singer, so I apologize in advance for what I'm about to demonstrate. But as the song is fading out, there's this sort of melody and harmony where it goes, ooh. I was like, what is that? I know that from somewhere. 2 weeks later, I got up to Black Star. And in the middle of Black Star, I hear, ooh. I had the stems for both songs, so I went into my Avid and I put them on top of each other, and they were perfectly matched. In the film you saw tonight, at the end of the film, as it's going back to the planetary system, I cut Celebrate Blue into Black Star. You didn't notice the edit. Black Star is a song about reincarnation on a certain level. David's first song and his last song are completely connected. His through line was so consistent. You know, it's not, and one of the things I love about David, and it really sort of changed my way of thinking, is that it isn't a search for nirvana. It's about today. It's what we can do today. To me, the kiss of death was when he said in the 80s, you know, I didn't used to want to plan for the future, but now I do. And I cut to him looking at his own, it's very hard to read, so this is just, if you didn't get this, you weren't, it's just whatever. But I cut to the shot of him looking at him, a dead version of himself superimposed. And it was death to me. That was the death when he, as an artist, creatively, when he was like, stopped living in the moment and was planning for the future, like some sort of investment banker or something. And it's weird because my U.S. distributor pulled that out to put it into like this positive sort of, posting or something. I was like, no. That's the wrong, it's not meant to be inspirational. It's actually the anti-message of the film. So I kind of wandered off there. But
we've got some questions from the audience. First one's from Eden. What significance do you think featuring the audience had in communicating the experience of Bowie? What significance do you think featuring the audience had in communicating the experience of Bowie?
Oh, the shots of the audience.
Yeah.
You know. So at the beginning of the film, it's, you know, a prophet has arrived, and it's about church. It's a congregation. And so I wanted to establish that relationship early on with David. Also telegraphing what happens in the 80s. I don't use this line, but later in life, David would often say, reflecting back in the 80s, that he would look at the audience and he would think they were at the wrong show. They were Phil Collins' audience. And when we get to the 80s, and it's just like, yeah, Bowie! It's clearly that the audience has changed and whatnot, and his relationship to the audience has changed. So that's kind of what that was. Also, just kind of, I feel like myself.
Would the movie have been different if Bowie was still alive?
Well, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
His ethos doesn't change, does it?
I don't know. I mean, it's if I didn't have a heart attack, it would be totally different. But yeah. And if someone's going to ask if I think David would like the film, please don't ask me that. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite Bowie acting role? I mean, you featured most of them in the film in an impressionistic way, but do you have a favorite amongst them?
Yes, and I don't mean this in a silly way. It's the documentary Cracked Actor. To me, the original title of the film was Bowie in quotations. It's all performance. As you can see, I make no distinction between Cracked Actor or Man of Other Earth, or him on stage. It's all in quotes. And so that was very liberating, actually, of using Man Fell to Earth, not as this is David acting in a film, but these shots really capture the kind of the feeling that's being created by the audio about his mother and his family. And that was something by design from the beginning, that I was going to treat documentary footage and movie film rolls in the same breath. And in the same way, I wanted to treat his inspirations on equal footing with his own artwork and his own imagery, to create kind of to use as the visual vocabulary of the film. And if you, I mean, I don't even know all the references. I don't think. I mean, sort of do, but if you don't get them, nobody is intended to pick up every references. Sometimes they're overt, and sometimes it's a Rorschach test. You know, everyone's going to get something different from it. My hope and prayer is that one person will see this film and read the bibliography at the end and go watch a Kenneth Anger film, or go watch Metropolis. And if that happens, it will be fantastic, because that's what he did to me. He was my cultural passport. So I discovered Brecht and Burroughs and Kabuki, when I was 13, because of Bowie. Yeah, so,
And the title of the film, is that a favourite song, or is it more about the conveying?
I don't even know what Moonage Daydream means, which is perfect, right? I almost wanted to do it as 4 words: moon, age, day, dream. When the film was all said and done, and it was called Bowie, which I didn't like. I was like, we can't, even in quotations, it makes it seem like definitive, and like I'm not doing the definitive Bowie film. And I just feel like it's Moonage Daydream. That's what the film is. Like, I don't know what it doesn't. I don't know anything else. It just feels, that's what it feels like to me, like a Moonage Daydream, a Moonage Daydream of a life. What a great life.
Yeah, he even says it himself. Someone else has asked, did you choose to feature mainly the music that resonated with you?
No, I mean, obviously, yes, subconsciously, I suppose, but all the music was chosen because it related to my through line in one way or another. The story behind that was, I finished screening, I went to write the script, I couldn't crack it. 8 months, I couldn't figure it out. I was just stuck. I wanted to fire myself. I couldn't figure out how to write an experience. I'm a very kind of narratively minded, A, B, C, D. How do you do this? What happens at minute 17? I couldn't figure it out. And one morning, my wife was out of town with her kids, and I woke up and I didn't want to go to the office. It was like I couldn't go back there. It was like nothing was happening there. And I've been exploring Bowie's techniques and methodologies, and obviously the idea of getting out of your comfort zone is an important part of his process. So I just, on a whim, bought a plane ticket to Albuquerque, got on a plane, got to Albuquerque, got from LA, went to the train station and got a ticket to, and I said, I'm not going home until I crack this thing. And the second the train started moving, the floodgates opened. And I said, okay, let's play a game. I'm stuck. I have to find some way out of this mess. Let's play a game. The theme, the through line is transience. We can break that down into several sort of subcategories. Spirituality, gender fluidity, or whatever it may be. So let's take that as an idea and let's pick 3 songs from each album that relate to that theme. Let's create a playlist, put it in there, and see what happens. And 3 hours later, that was the playlist that was created, which served as the foundation for the film. So again, it's subtext. It's not intended for the viewer to say, oh, he's picking cracked actor because of X, Y, and Z. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's irrelevant. But it provides a cohesion for me, at least. And so everything, for me, in this weird jigsaw puzzle feels like it's perfectly kind of, it's where exactly it needs to be. So yeah, no, I definitely, there's some of my, the one song I forced in there was Quicksand. I had to get that in. I don't know if anyone noticed, that's an alternative version of Quicksand too.
I'm really sorry, but unfortunately that's all we've got time for. I'd love to keep talking to you, but the film is screening many more times, and I think, as you said, it's out September 15th?
September 15th, all over Australia. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.